Welcome and good day, everyone. We, of course, glad you guys could join us here for Talk It Over. Starting a new series, Book Club, which generally has been good over the few years. Always find some of the speakers really speak to you individually, which I've always really enjoyed. So we get to get a few weeks of Book Club, which is a lot of fun. Before we get into that, though, how your week's been? How things been going? Anything new, exciting, changing, or just vanilla pudding?
Vanilla pudding. That was a reference to last time, I think.
Yeah. Last time I think we were together.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
That's funny. The past week, it's been pretty vanilla pudding, I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty normal.
Mm.
The weather's been bland.
Yeah.
So
It's been very up and down.
Yeah, just kind of rainy and a bit cooled off, but yeah, it's just been kind of regular. Still just checking in on the bees.
So yes, the bees.
They're slowly growing.
You got the second stack on there?
Yeah, second box is on. So they're slowly expanding. I couldn't find, my friend and I couldn't find the queen in mine the last time, so she was playing really good hide and go seek.
Okay.
And we did not find her, so we gave up. But assuming that's all still hopefully fine, shouldn't just leave.
You haven't gone to check yet since?
No, not yet. That was sometime, I guess, last week. I think it was Thursday, but yeah, and with the weather, we did a bit earlier this time because we knew the weather until like Thursday this coming week is going to be kind of miserable.
Right.
But yeah, they're growing. So hopefully in like a month or so is when we can start putting the super on to start. They can fill that up, then we harvest that.
Nice.
So like the third box, and then you're ready to harvest.
Yeah.
So in a little bit should start having some honey in about a month or two.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Box goes on in a month, maybe a month to fill it up. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see.
Then start getting some fresh honey.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's crazy. It feels really fast.
Yeah.
So
that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to try it.
Yeah.
Taste testing of the honey.
Me too, because I don't normally really eat honey.
Okay.
Which is funny because this is like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Making honey.
And it's not like, I won't eat my product. So that's usually good if you're trying to sell it or give it to people. You don't eat everything.
You don't eat your
Don't eat the profit, as it were.
Yeah, eat the profit.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's great.
Yeah. My week, I don't know, my update's probably the same as yours. We got the motorcycles on the road.
Yes.
And so we went out on Friday for the first time in, I don't know, 8 years.
It's a good amount of time.
Yeah, I've been 8. Yeah.
I was kind of nervous about getting the bike out again because it's been so long. Like, am I going to forget how to like control everything? But it worked.
It came back.
Yeah, we came back.
It just switched in the brain.
Muscle memory, right?
Yeah, we hit the road, and then for our street, we drive down the road, and then you come to a roundabout, and then you have to drive down the road again. So before you come to a stop sign. And the most scary part for me, anyways, is cornering and stop signs, because then you have to get the clutch control right so you can go again without stalling it. And so I experienced corners and stopping. All just
in like the one turn.
Exactly. And I'm like, I made it through that without stalling and without dropping anything. And so I'm good now. And it just came back real fast. Yep. So it was good.
And was Moose was on there with you?
No, he was really mad. We kept him home.
We had to run. We were doing some errands, and we thought we would go maybe do dinner as part of the ride. And then we were out.
Can't bring the dog into a restaurant.
Yeah, we were out yesterday as well. And again, we're making a few stops. We can't really bring him with us, so it makes it difficult. So we'll have to do a ride where we're just going out and coming back without actually making any major stops, and then we'll be able to get him on the bike and see how he does. But
if we have time, maybe today.
Maybe we'll see.
Because he hasn't done that.
No.
He
hasn't done that. So
cool.
No, it's been good. It was quite the week of getting that together, getting out, and just remembering, just allowing your body just to kind of remember the muscle memory and just allow it to do what you've been doing for years. And then for me, getting the first toe scrape on the pavement is always nice. Got that done right away, so that was good.
Oh, you looked to do that.
So leaning over, I like at least once a year, I like to get my foot on the asphalt as I'm leaning, and was able to do that. So that's a nice feeling. Not everybody enjoys doing that. I do. It just lets me know I'm putting the bike to its just about its max, and it's just something I like to do each and every year, just to get out and just touch that foot. So kind of start the season. So yeah, it was really good. A lot of fun. Really
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it. I can't believe I haven't done this in 8 years. It really came back. It was like we really should have been doing this the whole time along, but it's more difficult.
Capacity,
Yeah,
finances,
it's-
other things.
Well,
It's-
it's like a renewed passion now.
Yeah,
Which is
it's
kind of fun.
a little different when you have a little one that can't really sit on the bike to where now he can actually touch the pegs. He's stable on the bike. He leaned really well with me, did really good. So
He loves it.
one of the best passengers I can say I've had, being as young as he is.
I was gonna say, haven't you been a passenger?
I've had bad passengers that did the exact opposite of what I've told them to do.
Like lean against you.
Leaned against me,
Probably because they're nervous
and
about.
very rigid and shifting around a lot. So I've had some bad passengers. He's probably one of the better ones I've had.
Yeah.
And only being 8 years old, he did really, really well. By
Cool.
far one of the best I've had. So really enjoyed that. And then some trailer modifications. We yanked out the couch, so that's gone. I was constructing new pieces to form around the furnace and such, and replacing a few other pieces. So we got everything cut out and done. So now I just have a bit more bracing to do, and then we got a bit of sanding and paint, and then we've got the trailer set and ready to go. And
for next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend, and so it's looking good. There's a lot more space to walk in now, which is a lot nicer. Nice. So it just gives us a bit more maneuverability through kind of the trailer, which is a lot nicer. So yeah, really enjoy that.
Wow.
All right. So book club, title of today's message is The Power of Conversations. And for me, I think our speaker today, Willie Robertson, probably one of the best book club speakers I can say I've had the chance to experience. Connect with what he's saying, and on the level he connects on, I really got a lot out of that message.
And he's so funny and just able to really like follow along.
A great storyteller. Like he was, for me, was really, really good.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I recommend go back, check out this week's book club with Willie Robertson, and just it is really good. Really looking forward to the questions we have today. So our scripture today comes from Matthew 28:18-20. And Leanne, could I get you to read that for us today?
Sure. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the end of the age." Matthew 28:18-20.
Yeah, I like what Willie talked about there. There's kind of 3 big pieces to that, which I really liked, which was disciples, baptizing, teaching. Kind of talking about those 3 main points in that scripture of what Jesus was saying. This is kind of that roadmap of this is what you should do. This is the mission, as Willie kind of described it as. Making disciples, baptizing people, and teaching them about God. So I really quite enjoyed how he broke that down. So our first question here, was there a conversation that impacted or changed you in some way? Some of those can be hard to think about because you don't remember maybe all the conversations you have over the years.
There's a lot.
And what was impactful or did make a change, because sometimes it's kind of hard to remember those. I know.
I've had conversations in the past where I think I've made up my mind and the next step, something that I need to do, and then I start talking it through with other people. They help me to kind of, unhash things and talk things through and just, okay, so when you say this thing, do you actually mean that thing? Or why do you think that kind of thing? And so there's been a lot of opportunities that I've had where just talking things through helps me to kind of clarify my thinking, think things through in a straighter way to realize that actually I didn't mean that. I meant something different.
Okay.
And realizing now, had I taken the step that I wanted to take, or I thought was a good step for me to take, would have actually ended in a bad place that I didn't see, but they helped me to kind of see the light so that I can take next steps in the right direction in the way that I think God is trying to lead me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that. wanting to discern with people, hear their opinions. I find God can do a lot of speaking through people. It just kind of happens. All of a sudden, something clicks, something someone said, and you're like, oh, whoa. And it's like you got more understanding all of a sudden.
Yeah. And it's cool when, like, I don't plan a lot of those conversations. Like, they just happen naturally. Come home and I had a great discussion with so-and-so today. And, well, did you mean to? No, but it just happened. Like,
it just happened, and we're happy about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. It's hard to pinpoint one conversation. I think what I'm glad, like something that Michaela and I do, it's just there's a lot of wanting to discuss about stuff that's on our mind that we think God's teaching us, or like whether that's from a devotion we did or a podcast she's listened to or reading she's done. And it's interesting how often, it's not even just with Michaela, we are married, so it's often we talk together, but where like we'll talk about things that we're learning and how often they complement each other and point to a bigger picture. It's like we bring a piece of a puzzle together, and it starts to we start to see the fullness together. It's very weird and strange how often that happens, where from very different mediums, I could be listening to a deep theological thing with Jordan Peterson or something about Genesis, and then she'll be listening to a podcast about, I don't know, eliminating hurry, something very practical, and then like somehow there's like similar stuff that we're learning in different ways. We can help to like expand on that stuff. Like that I find is like, I come out of it thinking like I'm glad that we have these conversations, because without if we just kept to ourselves and tried to invest in learning on our own, then you miss out on potentially a lot of stuff that God's teaching her or he's teaching me, and we can share. So
and to be able to share something with other people, you have to understand it at another level, like and actually be able to articulate what you're trying to share. And so you end up actually learning more by teaching somebody else what you're learning. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. I think about that usually in hindsight, about like, you're explaining it to someone, but also to yourself. Is very weird.
Well, I'm going to go a very different direction with this one.
All right, where are you going?
So the one conversation I had would have been 16-ish years ago.
So at a particular conversation.
Very particular conversation.
Okay.
Almost 16 years ago.
Okay.
Almost 16 years ago was very actually. Almost 16 years ago.
Must have been an important one.
Sitting with my parents, and me and Leanne have been dating for not quite a year at that point. And they were asking me, it just kind of came up, and they're like, so you're gonna like propose to her? And it's something I hadn't even really thought much about. And we got into that conversation, and seeing how, I don't know if excited is the word, but just how happy my parents were with her and enjoying having her around. I guess it changed my perspective of, we're dating and we're going in a direction towards marriage, but I don't know I was really there at that point. And having that conversation with them and seeing how much they, in a sense, approved of the relationship and enjoyed having her around, and saw how happy I was, and just having that conversation with them really did impact me to the point of, well, maybe I should propose to her. Maybe this is what I need to do now. Maybe this is what I was waiting for to make that next step. And so that conversation really did impact me to get me here now. From something I wasn't really thinking about.
Because at that age, it tends to be, we've got all these future things that you're trying to figure out.
Yeah, there's lots that can change, lots that can happen. And it wasn't something that was on the forefront of my thought process. I knew that was a direction we had talked about, but it wasn't something I was really like, we need to do this now. It was like, we'll get there. Right? And so that conversation changed the direction to where we are now. So.
Because you proposed like a few months later.
And so it changed it, right? It just, that conversation changed my perspective on where my relationship was with you at the time. And so it just made a big difference.
There you go.
That's where we are. All right. So conversations can be hard, can be difficult.
Yes.
Can be challenging at times.
No.
They can be fun.
They can be fun. They can be daunting. There's a lot of things that go around with conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can we talk about any barriers that might keep you from sharing the gospel? And how does it make you feel to know that Jesus will always be with you?
Yeah. I really like this question.
Mm.
Because this is something that like I've really wrestled with. I think in university it hit me. So I was part of a Christian club, Power to Change.
Yep.
At university.
Mm-hmm.
Really good group of people to meet. And they really wanted to push what did they call it? I think they just call it sharing. Something like trendy. So what you would do is you'd partner up with someone, probably someone you haven't met before, so it's already kind of nerve-wracking in the club.
Ah, okay.
Mm.
And then you would go out onto campus. This is at Laurier, a notoriously kind of like, you don't really bring up Jesus that often, maybe on a campus.
Mm-hmm.
And you just go out and you just find a student and you're like, do you have a minute to talk? And you just start talking about them, and then you bring up Jesus. And I found it terrifying. And I was like, this is intense.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they had little tools you could use, like I think they're called perspective cards. So you would put out these cards, and they would essentially kind of slowly help you walk through like bigger topics to get to the point of, what kind of, these are the religions, like which one do you most kind of like relate to or find interesting?
Oh, okay. Yep.
And you kind of slowly walk them through points of like, because they can talk about Buddhism, but then you can talk about the Christian perspective on things that maybe Buddhists think of, right? So you're always kind of guiding them back to Christianity and to Jesus, which kind of took the pressure off, because now we're doing cards, kind of, right? Instead of just really intense, I've never met you before, we're talking about Jesus, which is was so foreign to me. I personally, like, after the fact, it was very moving to like how like willing people were to have conversations.
Okay.
But I never got over the fear of just how terrifying it was to just walk up to people. And some people be really natural at it, where it's just like they didn't care, right? Like from their perspective, your eternity is worth more than my discomfort or our discomfort in this glimpse of a moment. Yeah. But then there was always this struggle between, you could feel it in the club, between, is it best to just approach people and to talk about this stuff? And like, it's fairly intense for the people doing it and maybe for the person in the moment. Or is it like, we should just be lights and just be serving people and hope that they are curious about Jesus when you talk to them about it? Almost like bring them to us. And if they're interested, then we can talk to them about what Jesus is.
Gotcha. Yep. And
there was this tension all the time, because you could see people really wrestling with it internally of like, is it effective? Is it this and that? And like, and then to hear this message and just to be like, you just got to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And like, maybe it doesn't have to be quite as direct as like, intentionally going out and just sitting with strangers and talking about it, but bring up Jesus. Like, he's a part of your life. I love the comparison he did with like, talking about your spouse. Yeah. Where it's like, you're not just going to never bring up the person that you spend tons of time with because it's not your gift.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we get to heaven, we look at Jesus. It wasn't, you didn't give me was sharing about you. And you're like, what are you talking about? You could have talked about me in so many ways. I've drifted off the question a little bit.
It's okay.
But some of the barriers, I guess, I would find is, I don't want to bother them. I don't know why. There's something about like, or I don't want to put them in a position they'll feel uncomfortable, but also to have to face what the way you're living your life is wrong. And I don't like having to put someone in that position.
Yep.
Because that's not what my intention is to make them feel bad. It's about like, I have really good news. This is life changing, and I would love for you to like experience this. Yep. But in my mind, like in my head, there's like this voice that's just telling me they're just gonna think you're being judgmental. And it's a really big barrier, I find, to wanting to just casually bring up Jesus and to talk about him. Which is, I think, why I lean more towards that. I'd rather just be servant and loving, and hope that is makes them curious. What's different in your life, and then I would be thrilled to bring up Jesus. Because it's about a positive thing instead of the way we live life in this world is broken, doesn't work. We need Jesus. But both can be used, and God can use either. Yep. So anyway,
all right.
Yeah, I can connect with what you're saying. I think for me, it's just a comfort thing of like, that doesn't feel comfortable.
No, it
Like
doesn't.
bringing up Jesus to other people. But yeah, like what Willie was saying, like we should be talking about him as much as we talk about our spouse. Like at work, I know all of my colleagues' spouses' names because I talk about them all the time.
Yeah.
What do they believe? I'm not really sure. Do they know that I'm a Christian? I don't really know. I hope that they do. But like, I don't know. It was just a challenging, like, yeah, I need to be talking about Jesus more. And I find when I do talk about Jesus, it's people aren't like judgmental or anything when it's just kind of brought up within conversation. It's just, okay, cool, you believe that, that's fine. Yeah, but I don't feel like they feel anything against me because of it. But then at the end of the conversation, I start second guessing myself and doubting myself of, should I really talked about that? Should I brought that up?
Yeah. It's funny how that happens, eh?
Yeah, I just start like really doubting and like, okay, maybe I should have done that. But at the same time, it takes courage to be able to talk about your faith and to bring it up. So yeah, I think barriers is just fear and comfort. I want to be comfortable and I don't want to be afraid. Yeah. But that's not the Christian way of living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with what Willie was saying. It's not my spiritual gift. I think that's where I tend to lead to is, that's not my area of expertise. That's not what I'm made to do. I'm good at other things, just not that. So somebody else can do that. That's gifted towards that, right?
Because there is some people where it's like, you can tell. It's just they're passionate about it.
Yep.
They need to do it and they love it.
Yep.
But that does not excuse us,
yes.
unfortunately, right?
Yes.
We'll leave it to them.
Yes, leave it to them, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's one of those things where I think we can fall back on that even as Christians, that it's not my gifting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we can use that as kind of the buffer of, well, maybe that's why I'm just, being the light and hoping over, right? Where we can fall into that as, well, if I just keep doing my thing and this, and then somebody's going to come into my path and I'll be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm comfortable talking with them. I just don't be the direct, like I'm going to go direct and talk to them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where some of us can stumble on the whole, it's not my gift. So it's okay. I can pass on that because it's not my gift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When really, as it says, we're to make disciples, baptize, and teach.
Yeah.
And the only way to make a disciple is you
have to be sharing.
You have to be direct and sharing that with them, right? So I think that's where I fall a lot of the times, is just where I get hung up on that. But knowing that Jesus is with us when we're discussing, I think that helps to soften the idea that people around us maybe can be more open to that discussion. Kind of what you were saying, that less judgmental, less things, that God's working in them a little bit, to have them a little softened to be hearing what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where sometimes, again, I will forget that God's maybe working in them.
Yeah.
Because I just, for some reason, just kind of forget some of that sometimes, where God's working in them just like he's working in me.
Mm-hmm.
And they could be very open to it, but I'm looking at it as, oh, no, they're definitely not open to that. And I'm making that decision for them over them making that decision.
Yeah. And we think we know what they need to hear.
Yes, exactly.
But we have no idea what they need to hear. That needs to be God working, because we can't control that.
Yeah. But I think we try to control that, though.
We do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for some reason, it just never dawns on me. I think because I've shared the gospel enough and just got kind of like that's interesting response. There's some people where when you share the gospel with them, that it will just resonate with them and like it just hits them. And they're like, this is what I needed.
It's a life-changing moment.
Yeah. Like I think about when he was talking about his dad and like how he just went in the bar and talked about it. And then I think about what he has done because of his dad's.
Yeah. And
I think I just assume going into those conversations that they're just, that's interesting. I've heard of Jesus, whatever sort of thing. And I always put that in my mind, but it could be they could potentially be even more so passionate about Jesus than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And for me just to bring up who Jesus is and for them to be like, whoa, like
Yep.
I need to tell everyone, like the woman at the well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
It's just weird. It's interesting. That's the narrative that plays in my mind of I'm almost speaking to them, assuming that they're going to come at it from that perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you were saying, trying to control that.
Yep.
How can I make Jesus interesting to them? Because I know they're going to say, I've heard about Jesus. Yeah, I'm not really religious.
Yep.
That's what I assume is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to prove that Jesus is worth, the time and the effort. And,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't need to do that. If someone's like, really like, I don't know, it just hits them all of a sudden.
Yeah. Exactly.
But if we don't share, we'll never have those opportunities.
No.
Because that guy at the bar that talked to his dad could maybe have shared it with, 50 other people and got not much.
Yep.
But
Yep.
But with that one, it was like, wow, I need to change my life around.
That made the impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't want to miss those opportunities because God will use someone to reach them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think we are really good at just making it too complicated.
Yeah.
Like.
As Willie said, get up, get out, get after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop worrying because if you get up in your head, it's almost too late for you. You're not gonna actually follow through with it. You just need to be in the moment.
We overcomplicate it and we need to make it more simple.
This
Yeah.
It can
simple
be very
is
simple.
love.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's all we need to tell them.
It can be simple. It can be simple, but very effective. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be complex to be effective.
No.
It can be very simple and very effective. And we need to remember that.
Yeah, and he had some good steps, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Like some models we can follow, because it doesn't necessarily have to be sit down. Do you know about Jesus? Because maybe that can come off weird to people. Most people would. But you can actually show interest in them, ask about their story. Like that's what Jesus did. And if anyone's good at sharing about Jesus, it's probably Jesus.
Yeah.
I would hope so, yeah.
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 It's about himself and what he's there to offer. And
We even asked the women for help. Can I have a glass of water, please?
If you're doing that, can I have a drink as well? And but then was very intentional with he had a plan for that conversation.
Yeah.
He wanted change,
Mhm.
which is important because I can bail in some conversations.
Mm.
Where I'll have I've gone out to lunch with people thinking I really want to talk to them about Jesus, and I just kind of talked about it, but not really. I kind of bailed a little bit.
You don't really fully commit to. Yeah.
It's because it's crazy. Because you just think I had the conversation at least. I didn't really talk much about Jesus, but I was there.
Yeah.
That should count for something.
Yeah.
But it's
I was there being the light. So
yeah. I was friendly, and it's okay,
Yeah.
but there's plenty of people who could be friendly and could be crazy people, and it takes more than that. You have to be intentional.
Yeah, I think this ties with the one message from the previous series about the light and the salt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And we talked about that, and you need both.
Yeah.
You need both to be effective.
Yeah.
One is good, but both need to be there to be effective.
Yeah.
Because you can be that light, and you can be be there, and you can be the present passively, and people can see you and they know you're different. But just because they see it doesn't mean that's going to make a life change for them. That doesn't mean they're going to, right? And that's where you need the action, the directness of the salt. As you would season things, it's a very direct process.
Yeah.
And so being direct with the conversation of, ask questions leading towards the gospel, right? Being intentional about what that conversation is, right? So I think that is the big point. I think kind of he was trying to make, as well as in the last series. You need both to really make the impression stick and actually have some life change or a different view for somebody, or somebody who then may want to ask more questions. And I think that's extremely important.
And Jesus is there with us.
Exactly.
Right.
And he's
saying, I'm there till the end of the age, until this next world, this world's done and the next one's coming in. And if he's with us, then, we're just essentially echoing what he was telling people.
Yeah.
Right. It's his mission, his purpose, his life change.
Mm-hmm.
We're just mentioning it to people like, hey, this is available, by the way.
Yeah.
And this is what it's done in my life.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to get over those fears. Which are very intentionally there, because we're in a spiritual battle, right?
Yeah.
Where there's many things that the enemy would rather us talk about instead of about the life change that's there with Jesus.
Yeah.
Just talk about the weather, talk about anything else,
Anything
anything
else.
but Jesus. Yeah.
Keep us distracted.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, that is our time. We are up at time here. So I, of course, thank you guys for joining us. I hope, again, this was a great conversation for you, just to get a bit more perspective out of the message that you heard. And if you haven't, I suggest you do. And again, you guys can start this yourselves. You two friends can have a conversation just like this about the message each and every week, and how inspiring it can be to get different perspectives and opinions from the friends and people around you, because it certainly can help you to learn and grow a little bit more. Of course, I want to thank the tech team right here for making, of course, this all possible for us, that you guys can be part of this with us each week. And of course, we want to remember, whoever finds God finds life.